How can this be happening on the last boss of the tier?
50.7, 50.6, we have 5 more seconds, 50.5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2,
Scratch bubble, please. Please.
What?
Please.
What?
We got it.
What's happened?
What?
49.6? She dies at 45.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a little chat about this race, which has taken every dramatic twist and turn you can possibly imagine. And believe me, I saw last time the guys who were into Final Fantasy 14 and stuff and not happy with WoW right now. Sure, I read you loud and clear. There will be a time and a place for that, but it's not right now, because we're talking about the race, and that is nothing to do with any of those things. Let's get into it, because if you were like me in any way, shape, or form, this weekend you were glued to your screen, flicking backwards and forwards as Limit was pulling the boss, and then they wiped, and then Echo were pulling the boss the other way, and all the dramas along the way indeed. Let's talk about a few things then. Big surprise. So in the last video, we talked about how it seemed like it was going to be an endurance race through the Sanctum of Domination, easily going to the reset with that mid-tier boss, Painsmith, taking up so much trouble. Like, what was beyond this must be something gargantuan, right? We're looking at a Tomb of Sargeras 2.0, where every boss you overcame had a bigger and badder boss waiting for it, and that turned out to not be the case whatsoever in a massive shock twist. At the same time as Painsmith went down, Blizzard decided it was time to buff Kel'Thuzad and Sylvanas before the guys even got there. Now, this was a really interesting twist because no doubt, with all the changes they've had to make into 9.1, including still rebalancing legendaries, still seeing the exact power levels that the players were able to get to, they probably wildly underestimated just how much damage, how much healing, and how strong the tanks could be going this deep into the raid in week 1. So this meant that they had to take the data they now had with lots of people pushing Mythic to actually recalculate things and buff those bosses, because unquestionably, if the guys would have reached Kel'Thuzad and reached Sylvanas in the current states of those bosses, likely would have been stomped, and Blizzard didn't want that. Alternatively, a little bit too late for them to start messing around with the Guardian, the Guardian of the first ones, Ancient Ones, Guardian, we call him, Fate Scribe. Both bosses dying in under 30 pulls for both guilds. Really disappointing to see, and we're definitely going to be talking about that later on, because this was an eye-opener. We thought we were in for a long race. They overcome that, and suddenly Guardian dies, Painsmith taken world first by Echo, smash Guardian same night, even considered to be such a joke that Raid Leader Scribe actually called out. He's like, guys, does anybody need loot off this boss? Not using an idyllic comp for boss number 7 of the raid, instead deciding, does anybody need loot? Because this is just a loot pinata. This is crazy how this big DPS check, big healing check boss is such a pushover. Similarly, over on Fate Scribe, where the guys discovered that, in fact, the big mechanic you think would be the crazy one, which is the spinning rings, and how short of a window have we got to do that? How much do we need to min-max these spinning rings? No more difficult than normal mode. They actually made it so you could just spin them one way and they would hit every single time. Few little tricky mechanics and overlaps to deal with. Nothing too big. Between 20 and 30 wipes for both guilds to overcome that challenge. Then comes Kel'Thuzad, and those of you might have seen the tweets of Limit and Echo saying whoever designed this boss probably needs a pat on the back and a bit of a consolation, because right there in the raid, they put in a trinket which kind of changed how the mechanics of the fights work. There's no cheesing, there's no cheating, nothing going on. It's right there in the raid. A death skip trinket. That's right, a cheat death trinket for a boss that has a mechanic that if you die, respawns you with ads and all this kind of stuff, and took that out of the fight. So boss well designed, more than likely, and it wouldn't even surprise me if we see on the reset, Blizzard might leave it alone because of the race, but they've changed the interaction of that trinket on Kel'Thuzad. Would not be too surprising, as they did not want Kel'Thuzad to fall over as quickly as he did, but 30 odd wipes. And this brings us up to Sylvanas Windrunner, and not an absolute unreal scenario this was to actually witness happening live was incredible. We now have 5 guilds up there with pieces joining them as well. But the talk is, of course, of the big 2, Echo and Complexity Limit. Neck and neck. like neck and neck, both hitting that 60% wall here and there. Limit a little bit scrappy earlier in the tier, but their Sylvanas play was really, really good. Echo has been absolutely hit their peak this time around on this tier, performed really, really well all the way up until today, and Limit now side by side. So this was very, very interesting. If you were remotely into the race, this was crazy. But Echo started to edge ahead. They started to edge ahead, and the idea, of course, being that it would be the same in normal, the same in heroic. Sylvanas is going to die at 50%. The fight is going to end at 50%. However, here comes this mysterious piece of data mining spell aura. Now, this is where it gets confusing, because there are a lot of wrinkle brains around there saying everybody should have known what was going to happen. That is not the case. And the clear evidence is these guys are the best prepared in the world. I saw some tweets that like, maybe these top guilds should prepare better. You have no fucking clue. The mountain of ego required to send something like that out into the wild is insane. They're the most prepared people in the world. But a few days ago, 8th of July, in fact, data mined spell aura. What does that mean? Doesn't mean a whole lot. It actually relates to anything. Could have been energy, could have been time, could have been tick, could have been boss HP. 45. Some modification Blizzard had made during the Sylvanas fight of 45. So, of course, some people are going to guess 45% HP on the boss. Of course you are. That's lucky. But it could have related to anything. It could have been an orb that's got to cast a spell at 45%. It could have been that a debuff is now going to last 45 seconds. It could have been the amount of energy at 45 causes something to happen in terms of a spell cast. Could have been literally goddamn anything at all. Who knows? Otherwise, these guilds would not have smashed their face in to reach 50%. But there we are, Sunday evening in the EU, and suddenly Echo breaks that 60% barrier. They break it down to 55. They break it down to 53. And in the final hours, Limit at that time, kind of the same atmosphere I have seen from Echo in the past when I have been sat in the room with the guys, is there's almost an aura of defeat. They kind of know they're going to kill it pretty soon. Echo has had multiple 51% wipes in the last hour. They're looking for that extra percentage, and you could kind of see it when you're flicking over to Limit as well as they were playing. It's imminent. It was the same thing we saw with Echo during Denathrius. It's the same thing we saw with Echo during Nyalotha. There was the same aura of, it's just going to happen at any minute. The race is going to be over. Fuck. And Echo were on fire. Smiles. All happiness. Everything you would expect to see from these players. So what happens? 51, 50 and a half. Keeps going. And the viewer numbers are rising up because it's any moment. I'm sat there like this. And then the pull comes. She hits 50%. And she hits 49%. And then they all die. And still standing is Sylvanas Windrunner. Not giving any shits. And that's when it happens. That's when it happens with like, oh my god, it is 45%. Holy shit. And the complete 180 that happens with the personalities of each guild was a sight to behold. Because if you're not familiar with this fight, guys, finding an extra 5% might seem easy, but this is a boss with a huge amount of hit points. And these guys are already geared as humanly possible. And that means that finding 5% ain't no laughing matter. So massive depression, understandably heartbreaking. I was right along with them in the Echo camp. Vice versa over in the Limit camp, a new lease on life. A new lease on life. This race is not over, and now we can make some choices. Immediately after the news reaches Limit, within seconds of it happening to Echo, the news reaches Limit. Stop raiding. We need to go and get more gear from somewhere. We need to rethink our strategy. We're not killing it like this. We need to go and get some stuff done. Echo decides to call it a night. Echo decides to call it a night, and this is where crackpot theory starts kicking in. Very likely right now, and not dead as of recording this. Boss is probably going to die at 45%. Where the hell do we find that extra 5%? Because it's an enormous ask. It's a huge ask to find that 5%. There are places to improve. The phase 2 is a little scrappy. They could have done better in phase 3. All these things, but is it 5%'s worth? I don't know. Is it 5 cents worth? Probably not. Got to find something else from somewhere. Or we're going to have to change a lot of stuff to try and scrape that boss damage from somewhere. Where is it going to come from? And this is where, of course, the dreaded, the evil weekly reset starts to rear its head. And neither guild wants this. Limit don't want this. Echo don't want this. Because, of course, if you're not aware, in the US, they get their World of Warcraft weekly reset one day before the EU. And that means they're going to pick up the guild vaults. They're going to have a full clear of Mythic. They're going to be able to do heroic runs. They're going to be able to do an enormous amount of stuff to get a massive amount of power before the EU servers even go live. Meaning that if it does come down to just a DPS race, it's kind of in Limit's hands. It's Limit's race to lose at that point. And it's not a fun clear because the other guys don't even have a chance to race. So they don't want that either. What's going to happen? I don't know. But drama doesn't end there. Holy shit. So, what do Echo do? They say they're going to do some off stream, right? They're going to do some stuff off stream. And this is where it comes in, that we had video footage that she's kind of funny. Although technically she's supposed to die at 50%, if she's got some spell queuing going on, she can go all the way to 49.5, 49.4. And we have footage of her not ending the fight until that point. So perhaps she was spell queued, it didn't look like it. Perhaps she would already set a trigger of events in motion, meaning she couldn't possibly die at that point. Hard to say. Although we have seen now that it's very, very, very likely it's 45% HP. So back to the drawing board. So Echo goes to the drawing board, and then we find out just within the hour, they stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Massive braining. Massive braining. They got the best of the best in the world at figuring stuff out, trying to find 5% of boss health, and a huge amount of health. And a strategy is developed in an amazing twist. First thing this morning, Echo hits in to get a little bit of upgrades that was still left for one of their players, Roger Brown. Then they go straight back into Mythic. Nothing's changed. Same comp, everything from last time. Where's that 5% coming from? They figured out a big brain strategy that they could actually send a tank completely on its own in the gauntlet to deal with a boss and just not kill it. And just have the tank it while the rest of the raid goes another way. Doesn't use any DPS cooldowns now, because instead of splitting the raid in two like they had been doing, now the raid's in one ball, which means a lot more damage dealers. They managed to clear up all the trash, get to Sylvanas, and that means the entire raid now has DPS cooldowns for one of her extra phases that they could not utilize yesterday, buying them another 2 to 3% boss HP. This is the big brain plan. They could buy that big HP gain on her, and then if they play slightly better in the last phase, there's a chance. There's a sliver of hell's chance they can get it done. Third pull into this strategy, Blizzard changes the fight. No, that is not what we're doing. No, that is what you're not killing. That mob that you're off tanking, that you're not dealing with. No, that is an extra enemy we put into this fight for Mythic only, and you goddamn are going to deal with it. So they gave it an enrage. If you do not kill it by the time you reach Sylvanas, it will wipe your entire raid. In the middle of the pull, Blizzard comes in and says, absolutely not. And that brings us to right now. Oh my god. Woo! Right? Oh my god. Damn, man. What a week. So what does this mean then? Well, it means any number of things that could go on right now. One is that Limit get up and they managed to kill it legit. Echo could muster the strength to kill it legit before the reset. Both guilds want to kill us before the reset. This is the final raiding day of Limit before they get their reset on the actual World of Warcraft servers. And then all hell breaks loose. Chaos is unleashed upon the planet at that point. Like I say, guys, tonight, as you're watching this right now, if you head over to Twitch and just check out what the hell is going on over there, it is madness and chaos. Double heartbreak for Echo, as they not only reached what they thought the endpoint was not the endpoint, then came up with a strategy to get around that, did not work, and got changed by Blizzard, and now it's up for grabs. It's up for grabs. But the last thing we want, the misery we want, is this to go to a reset after such a compelling and interesting race. Again, no reflection on the raid itself. Don't care about that. We'll talk about that later. Right now, it's about these two going head and head. And of course, shout outs to Big Dumb Guild and Method and Pieces, who are all up there on Sylvanas as well. But what a nail biter. An absolute nail biter. And whatever the resolution is, I hope it's a good one. I hope and pray it's a good one for all these teams. Because goddamn, did they deserve a good ending to this race. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.